read you a quote. The expert at anything was once a beginner. So I just want you to think about that for just a second. Think about somebody like Michael Jordan, one of the greatest basketball players that ever lived. There was a time when he picked up a basketball for the first time. Do you think he made his first basket he ever tried? Do you think that he was automatically great at it? Probably not. Think about Thomas Edison and how many times he attempted to make the light bulb work before he finally figured out the way to do it. So if you're finding anything that we're doing in math difficult, just don't give up. Remember that you're a beginner of some of the things that we are doing, and you will get better. If you feel like the whole online situation is just not something that you were cut out to do, it's okay. You'll get better at it. I think to myself, just a few weeks ago, I had never even created the Google Classroom, didn't have an idea what it was like. Even my first 2 weeks on Google Classroom were kind of crazy. I didn't really know what I was doing, and I was learning. And now I feel like I'm so much better at it. I'm not an expert, but I'm definitely better at it. So anything in math that we're doing, whether it's the dot plots or the stem and leaf plots, if you're not very good at it, that's okay. No one's really good from the very beginning. Everyone was a beginner at one point. You have to be a beginner before you can become an expert. All right, so let's get started with today's activities. So we're now moving on to the, oh, look, see, there's my thumb. We're now moving on to the Thinking Up pages for today. We're doing Thinking Up pages 359 and 360. And the part of 359 that I really want to pay attention to is this area right here. Now, this is crazy easy. Like, literally, I even thought to myself, really, do I need to do this with them? Because I truly felt like, especially number 1, 2, and 3, you should be able to do on your own at this point. In fact, you know what? Let's go ahead. Why don't you test how smart you are? Pause the video and do number 1, 2, and 3 on your own. All right, here we go. Write frequency table, dot plot, or stem and leaf plot on the line below each data display. Then answer the questions. So we have 3 different pictures here. We have this picture, this one, and this one. Oh, here comes my shadows. Is this better? No shadows if I do that? It's somewhat better. Okay. It wants to know which one of these 3 is a frequency table, which one is a dot plot, and which one is a stem and leaf plot. Okay? So hopefully you knew this without really having to look back, because if you watched those videos that I did teaching each one, hopefully at this point you understand at least that by now. Okay? So this one right here is the frequency table. Okay? This one right here is the dot plot. And this one right here is the stem and leaf plot. That should have been pretty simple. Okay, now let's look at the questions 4 through 7. How many categories are used in the frequency table? Okay, so here's our frequency table right here. Oh, here comes my Roomba. Must be 2 o'clock. Here's my frequency table right here. It wants to know how many categories there were. Okay, well, it looks to me like this is colors of string. And there were red, blue, black, gray, and white. And this was, I guess, the number of people who used that string, or the number of strings they used, something like that. We're not exactly sure. But the number of categories, there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 categories. Okay? Number 6. What is the data set for the stem and leaf plot? Okay, so this was the stem and leaf plot right here. It wants to know what was the data set. Okay? It wants to know, like, okay, what was it talking about? What? Now I have Alexa going off. Alexa, stop. Alexa, stop. Did she stop? Yes, she did. No, she did not. Hold on just a second. Alexa, stop. Sorry about that. I probably should have looked at the time before I started my video. Okay, Alexa, set a timer for 15 minutes. All right, so what is the data set for? Like, what is the data set for? Okay, not what's the data set. If it was the data set, it would be asking what these numbers were, 12, 13, 20, 20, 25. But it's asking what is it for. So we have to look at the title for that, okay? This data set is for length of strings. Okay, let's see. Number 5, what is the data set for the dot plot? There you go. The data set for the dot plot. So here's the dot plot right here. See if you can answer number 5 on your own. All right, number 5 is the same answer as number 6. This is also giving the length of the strings. And number 7, which data display shows categorical data? Ooh, that is a big word. Categorical. What word do you see in categorical? I see the word category. Well, not exactly the word category. The Y is not there because there's a different suffix at the end. But category. Think what categories are. If I had categories of food, I would have fruits, vegetables, desserts, greens, meats. Those would be different categories. So it's asking on our frequency table right here, what data display shows categorical data? That's right here. So the frequency table, it's showing categories, red, blue, black, gray, white. Those are different categories. So your answer would be frequency table. Okay, I just realized I'm writing in cursive. That's okay. You'll figure it out. All right, so here's the thing. I have a lot of students who are not doing this last question that it's here, okay? There is a question down here, okay? And you need to be answering that question, okay? Really quickly, I'm hiding this week, I'm gonna be hiding lightning bolts, okay? So if you are listening to my video at this point right now, if you would, when you go to the next page to put your answers in, you can insert an image, a shape actually, and one of the shapes that you can choose is a little lightning bolt. The lightning bolt is right there between the heart and between the sun. So will you please, on your paper, on slide, right now it's slide 12, hopefully it's still slide 12, whatever Thinking Up page 359 is on, where you have that big purple arrow where you're supposed to answer this question. Will you put a, we're just gonna go with, we'll go with red. We'll go with a red lightning bolt. Oh, that's a pretty good drawing. A red lightning bolt down here where you have this answer, and that's going to prove to me that you are watching my video. Are you watching my video? All right, so don't forget, how are the 3 types of data displays alike and how are they different, okay? So just tell me one way, okay? Tell me one way that they are alike, okay? Looking at these 3 things, what is in all of them that is similar, all right? And then tell me one way that they are different, okay? Looking at these right here, tell me something that's different about all of them, okay? All right, and then make sure you answer that question right down there. All right, now let's look at Thinking Up page 360. So this is the other side of that. This is explaining data and dot plots. It says a frequency table shows data organized by category and the number in each category. This frequency table shows data for the distance students jumped in a forward jump contest. So some kind of jump contest, and the students were jumping, okay? Forward jumps, there's your title. Here are the distances in feet, 3 3/4, 4, 4 1/4, 4 1/2, 4 3/4, and then here's the frequency. All right, it says the same data can be displayed on a dot plot. Draw a number line that includes the numerical values for the distances. So here's the number line right there. Place a dot above each number to represent the number of jumps for that value. So do notice that our number line goes from 3 1/2 to 5. That way it can incorporate all of the numbers, the distances that are here, okay? And then notice that it's going up by a quarter. So 3.5 to 3 3/4 is a jump of 1/4. And then if you add a fourth to 3 1/4, you get 4. If you add a fourth to 4, you get 4 1/4. So the fraction ones, okay, look really different from the ones that just have, say, where's the one that we did earlier? Just have numbers at the bottoms, okay? All right. And I will say, you'll see a lot of ones with fractions because one of the things that we tend to forget how to do is stuff with fractions, which is hopefully why you are doing your DMP. You should be doing your DMP. And that way you can practice fractions. I had another situation. Oh, it just made me so sad. I had another situation this week where I was on a Google Meets with a student and we went to go do a very simple multiplication, 27 times, 15. And that student could not do it. Could not do that problem. And it makes me sad because there was one time when the student could do that problem. And, the situation that we're in with staying home and doing online learning means that we don't get near as much teaching time as you do when you're in school. When we're at school, I make you do your DMP. We're doing multiplication and division and fractions and place value. We're doing those things every single day and keeping all that stuff in the front of your mind. And now that we're home, we're just focusing on this week. So I can't tell you how important it is that you are working on your DMP. I'm telling you, next year, when you get into 5th grade math, your life is going to be so much easier in 5th grade if you have kept your math skills sharp over this amount of time. All right, here we go. Off my soapbox. So where was I? Here. So it looks like they did just that. There's 3 3/4, and there were 2 students that were able to jump 3 3/4 feet. So there's the 3 3/4, and there's their 2 dots. So for how many students jumped 4 feet? There were 3 of them, and there's the 3 dots. So there it is, okay? So the number of dots represents the number of students who participated. So this is basically just frequency tables and dot plots in a nutshell, okay? So here's the question. How many students participated in the contest? There are 2 different ways that you could get your answer, okay? You can either add up these numbers to figure out how many students there were in the contest, or you could count the dots. It is your choice. Why don't you go ahead, choose which one you would like to do, and write down your answer. All right, here we go. Hopefully you got the number 13. There were 13 students. There's 13 dots. If you count them, or if you were add these numbers together, you would get 13. All right, so now let's look at stem and leaf plots. I like this because it has much larger numbers than the stem and leaf plot that I did with you earlier, okay? All right, so this frequency table shows data for the number of pages in library books on one shelf. Here's the number of pages, and here's how many books have that number of pages. The same data can be displayed in a stem and leaf plot. Record the first 2 digits in the stem column, then record the 1 digit in the leaf column. Okay, so it has 13 and 5 represents 135. So that means this is 135, 135, 135, 135. That means that there should have been 4 books that were 135 pages, 4 books that were 135 pages. Okay, there should have been 6 books that were 144 pages. 144, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 2 books that were 148, 148, 148, 2, 2. There we go. All right, so use the stem and leaf plot to answer this question. How many books have fewer than 150 pages? How many books have fewer than 150 pages? So looking up here, we can do 2 things. We can look at the frequency table, but it does ask us to use the stem and leaf plot, okay? It wants us to use this one right here. All right, so fewer than 150, okay? So that's gonna be everything right here, can you pause and count for me really quickly and tell me how many books have fewer than 150 pages? All right, your answer should have been 12. All right, great job, everybody. I know that today was a really long lesson. You had 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 5 videos to watch today. That's a lot. Maybe you're going to take Monday and do it into a couple of days. But that's the basics of what we're doing this week for stem and leaf plots. And hopefully the other videos the rest of this week will be shorter. See, can you see me now? I gotta look over here. See, I have a mirror over there. Oh, you can't see it. I have a mirror over there. So whenever I need to see myself and whether or not I'm in the video, I can look there and there. Okay. Anyway, so I know that Monday was super, super long. There were a lot of videos to watch, but I wanted to kind of break it up for you so that it wouldn't be one super long video. So you can go back and rewatch those videos if there's anything about stem and leaf plots or dot plots or frequency tables that you need to know. And hopefully the rest of the week will be much shorter videos. All right. See you tomorrow. Bye-bye. Do your DMP. No, really. No. Do your DMP. Bye.